The following podcast is a mass media production.
Hi, I'm Josh Galindo.
And I'm Krystal Galindo. Welcome to the Going Galindo Rugrats and Renovations podcast.
A lifestyle podcast where we will offer our experience and expertise in building real, lasting wealth through renovating and flipping homes.
And the chaos that comes with balancing a family of 6, leaving nothing unsaid.
Follow our wild ride we call life and apply our lessons to your own journey. Good morning, honey. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Today is a fun topic.
Yeah, you're excited about this one.
I'm excited about it because there's just so much emotion involved in it.
Yeah. You are going to talk about getting sued and how to manage that.
I'm going to talk today about getting sued, how to manage my emotions, the lessons I've learned because I have been sued, how a lawsuit comes with getting punched, but just know that you get the opportunity to punch the other guy too, and just how to kind of keep your cool and understand that it's not the end of the world.
Right, and if you're doing business, it's going to happen.
If you're doing business, it's going to happen. So we have a lot of stories. So I don't know if there's tips and tricks, but their stories obviously have little nuggets in them that I hope will inspire people if they ever get themselves into a position of a lawsuit. But listen in. There's a lot of nuggets in this one. I go through 3 or 4 of the disputes that I've had in my career, and they always say, if you're not at least in 3 lawsuits, you're not doing enough.
Oh.
That is a saying.
Well,
I don't want to be in 3 lawsuits.
You're doing enough.
But that is a saying. All right, listen in, have some fun. Hey guys, if you're looking for some family fun, I know I always am. Check out Circus Hotel and Casino. At Circus, there is something for everyone. Have a blast inside the Adventure Dome, a 5-acre indoor theme park with 30 rides, including their newest rides, Twisted Teacups, Circus Swings, and Little Sprinter Raceway. Or act like a kid again at the Midway, playing arcade games or enjoying their daily free circus acts. Looking for a special date night? Look no further than their award-winning restaurant called The Steakhouse, voted best steakhouse in Las Vegas. Circus offers affordable room rates starting at just $29 per night. Book your stay today at circuscircus.com.
all right, babe. So how to manage getting sued. I feel like in the flipping industry, there's a lot of opportunities that people like to take advantage of. So how do you manage that side of it?
Well, first and foremost, the great thing about the justice department or system, the justice system, is that you could get sued for anything. Seriously. You don't even have to get sued on a flip. So my first lawsuit, actually, I'm going to go even further back. My very first lawsuit was a raw piece of dirt.
I knew that it was going to be this one.
Did you think it was this one?
Uh-huh.
Okay, raw piece of land that I had put together. It was 2.5 acres on Silverado Ranch. I got a call from the seller, said, hey, I want to sell this property. I said, hey, it'd be my honor to sell the property and be your listing agent. So we determined a price and we listed it. I list the property. I take it to my mentor at the time, and he looks at it and he goes, that's a great piece of property. We should just buy it.
Dirt, right?
Dirt. And so I'm like, okay, it was $1.5 million. $1.5 million at the time wasn't like, you lending home your way into it. No, you had to put partnerships together to get that kind of money, especially on vacant raw dirt. So I put together a partnership between my mentor, my mother, myself, my friends, my broker in the office, and we closed it. I said, hey, seller, what would you be willing to take? He goes, this number. I said, excellent. So I go put together a partnership. We raise the amount of money, and we close.
Okay.
He sends me a letter right after we close. The commission on that thing was, I think, 5%, 50 was $74,000.
For the listing side?
For the listing side.
Okay.
Okay. Technically, I should have got one
on the buy
for representing the buying entity as well. Now that I think about it, I don't think I understood my craft that well. So, anyway, so $74,000. And right after we close, he sends me a letter from an attorney and says, you did not disclose that the parties in the buying entity were affiliated with you on a family level and on a broker level.
Okay.
I want all of the commission back.
I didn't know it was all.
He wanted all of it. Actually, he wanted all of it, and he got all of it. So I remember getting pulled into my mentor's office, and he sits down and he looks at me and he goes, "You didn't tell him that we were in the deal?" And I'm like, "No." And the thing was, is he was going through getting his gaming license for his C stores, convenience stores, the chain that he was building.
Yep.
So he looks at me and he goes, "This will not become a lawsuit."
Because he can't have a lawsuit.
Right. He goes, "You will settle this." And I was like, okay. And so long story short, I basically gave back the commission. So I went from making $74,000. Actually, that's what it was. He sent me a demand letter for like $100 because he wanted damages as well. So or attorney's fees or whatever it was. But I ended up giving back all of the commission and writing a check for $15,000. So I put together that deal and wrote a check for $15,000 and lost money. Anyway, so the moral of that story is that technically he was right.
I was going to say, what leg did he have to stand on? I don't understand.
As a licensee, I am obligated to disclose if my mother is a partner in the buying entity of a property that I represent. To articulate that in layman's terms.
Yes.
If I represent a seller and my mom is the buyer and she's unrepresented, I have to tell the seller that the buyer is my mom. I'm obligated to do that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. In this commercial deal, it was a little more complicated. There's a lot of moving parts, so that was a little bit harder to explain how that actually goes down. The second thing is if my broker, because it was a partnership, it was a conglomerate of people put together to buy one piece of property. And in that conglomerate was my mom, was me, and my broker.
And other people, but those are the ones that were...
those are the ones that crossed the line and got me in trouble. So I'd have to disclose all that as well.
Yeah.
And I didn't disclose it. So I wrote the commission back and wrote a check for $15,000 and owned the property for 10 years after that.
Yeah. I was going to say, so he was...
50% of the value.
He was right on paper, but I don't understand what difference it would have made if he would have known that.
You're so right, and that's a great point. That is an excellent point. I'm glad you brought that up. What was the difference?
Yeah.
It made no difference in the guy's life, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, there's shitbags like him that live on this planet.
Took advantage.
Yeah. And that is how they operate.
Right.
I just went through this with a guy in Red Rock. You know who it was. Yep. They're shitbags, and all they do is they look for holes to capitalize on.
Right.
And then they use the legal system to exploit the hole. And that's a bit of what this episode is about, is putting yourself in a position by me sharing my experiences to protect yourself. Mm-hmm. Because it's easy to get out there and just want to start conducting business. That's the fun part.
Right.
Okay. And what's fun about it is you're conducting business, which is fulfilling in hopes of generating money, in hopes of generating income, which is also fulfilling and fun. Right. All of that excitement, you start going, you start jamming, and you aren't paying attention. You may be chasing $20,000 on a house, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, in profit.
Right.
You make a mistake, you may have just signed yourself up for $100,000 loss.
Right.
From the legal system. Forget selling it and getting hurt on the sell or any other issue. You mess up big enough, and you are now in a position. You got $100,000 liability. So think how many more flips you have to do to overcome that deficit.
Right.
If you go backwards $100,000, you got to go do 5 houses. So that's why it's always so important to factor in losses on deals while conducting business and liability.
Right.
While conducting business. Because it's very easy to get stuck on what you're going to make. Mm-hmm. But if you aren't protecting your ass and you leave that exposed, you could be signing yourself up for a loss that would require 5 times the amount of work to overcome. All that does is bring you even, too, if you really think about that.
Right.
So, all right. So that guy was 100% correct. And those types of people are out there where this guy... He was lucky I bought it. Yeah. If you really think about it, it wasn't like there was a line.
No.
I would have been better off just playing real estate agent, collecting a commission.
Yeah.
Literally, but nobody else wanted it.
You were trying to help him
I was trying to help out my client.
Yeah.
I wish I could actually call that guy today and be like, you're a
I was
fucking
going to
piece
say,
of
do
shit.
you remember his name?
No, but here's the thing, is I'm sure I got way more money than he does because
he's not acting in good faith.
No,
and he's
those guys
nickel and
are
diming
snakes.
everybody else. You
Yeah.
don't get rich off of breaking other people's banks.
There's two different types of ways to make money that I believe. You are a taker or you are a contributor. So you either take from the system, meaning you steal and you take, and whatever you've taken has value, and you're rewarded for taking that item that has value, or you're a contributor. You add value and you are paid in exchange for contributing that value. So a good example is like a Sheldon Adelson. I don't know for sure about this guy. I don't want to misspeak about him.
Right, just
but
what
if I
you've heard.
just simply go off of what I've read about him in the newspapers and this and that, the guy would build a $4 billion casino and stiff half the vendors. That guy is a taker. Then you have like a Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
Okay, or an Elon Musk. Those guys pay all their people, and they've added a new component to society that created so much value, life-changing value for all of society, that they got rewarded and paid for adding value. So I believe that I not only believe this, I want to actively, consciously, and consistently live this way. I want to make money by adding value, not by taking value. And so you have to choose which department you fall in. And both work. I just don't want to be the other guy.
No.
Anyway, so you got to be careful of those shitbags out there that are takers and capitalize on that stuff. Okay, so that was my first lawsuit. Second lawsuit was Chris, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, another shitbag. Okay, so I sell a property for a 1% commission.
Yep.
Okay, $500,000 house. I say I'll be the listing agent. I'll only take 1%. Your friends and family. It was $5,000. Okay, I put on the MLS sheet. This is for Las Vegas. It said, at list price, I will pay this amount of money. I will increase the commission.
Yeah, at list price, you'll pay a 3% commission, but if it's not at list price, it was 2%.
Yeah, whatever. You probably remember better
That's
than
what
I
I
do.
remember.
Okay. So, but down on the bottom where it showed the co-op, the automated co-op,
Yeah.
it was the 3%.
Right.
Still, I didn't change that. You're right. That's what it was. So I get an offer at less than list. Actually, gosh, again, the more I think about this stuff, now that I'm more experienced, I want to be like, let me call these people back. How did I lose these things?
I don't think it was even that. It was that the co-op was listed at 3%, but then there was another box that you have to put, is it there a variable? You didn't put yes, you put no.
Yes.
That's why.
Yeah.
It could say 3%, but it had to say there's variable, right?
Yeah. Well, they said, why didn't you use the variable option? So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a good little nitpick there. And a good lesson. So,
Yeah.
So it said at this price, it would be a reduced commission.
Yep.
Anything under list price is a reduced commission, but I didn't change it in the MLS. Okay. So they come in at a reduced commission and I'm thinking it's my agent to agent remarks where it's like spelled out.
Yeah.
Like real clear. Not this little tiny box down here.
Right.
Okay, come to find out the MLS doesn't honor anything in the agent remarks. They only honor what's in the little box. So these people let me tee them up, get excited, seller, acceptance, through the whole, request for repairs, appraisal, close. Commission instructions come. Now, a little lesson here is that a commission cannot stop a sale from happening. If you're a licensed real estate agent, you cannot let a commission dispute stop a buyer and a seller from closing on a piece of property because it's not fair.
No.
Why would the buyer and the seller have it? Why would our dispute as brokers have any bearing on if a buyer or a seller are able to, close on their property?
Right.
So there was a dispute, but they didn't communicate there was a dispute. They just simply put on the commission instructions, which all of these things have made me a better businessman.
Yeah.
I actually, at this point in my career, I don't like lawsuits. I don't want to be in lawsuits. thankfully I got enough jing that if a big one hits, it's not going to change my life. But the amount of lessons I have learned from being in all of these is worth what I've written in checks to get out of them. I wouldn't have learned any of this in college. So anyway, where was I?
The commission instructions.
On the commission instructions, she said
the broker
of the other
agent
said we have the right to dispute this commission. We are signing these commission instructions, but this does not mean that we agree to them. We're signing them to keep the deal going down the road so that the buyer and seller can close it.
Yeah, and they put that on, send it to title. No one said anything.
And title never even sent it to me.
I know.
Title sent me one-sided commission instructions without that verbiage on there. If I'd have seen that, then I would have known we had an issue up front, and I would have probably tried to hash that out together. Okay, we close the house. I get $5,000, put it in my pocket. 6 months later, remember, it was forever.
Oh yeah.
I get a letter from the MLS saying that there's a dispute and they want the 1%.
Right, all that you made, knowing that you only made 1% on it. That's what pissed me off. Yeah.
They go, we want all of it. Anyway, I made them friggin' earn that one. I drug them out for like 12 months, and then.
I remember you saw that agent driving, and he was so afraid.
And here's the greatest thing: is a guy chased me down for $5,000,
which he didn't even get. Like,
who knows where it went? But now he's back to bartending. So it's just funny when you start playing those petty games and trying to be a taker and capitalize on
look where it gets you
on dumb shit. It doesn't get you anywhere. So that wasn't an actual lawsuit, but I learned a lot from that because I had to go to mediation. I had to sit down, and I got into a verbal argument with some random guy that the broker brought. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Was his name Todd or Tom?
Yeah, like Todd. I'm like, who the fuck are you?
You're like, I don't approve.
So I brought so I have my attorney. I go, get those guys to get out of here. So my attorney tells the mediator that he wasn't an approved person to be in the room. So that after a full verbal argument, two egos just going back and forth,
he had to leave.
The mediator's like, you gotta leave, sir. You're not on the list. I was like, bye. Yeah, it was good. Anyway, and that's the other thing. Something that was fun. So lawsuits, when they first hit me, I woke up every single night at 3 a.m. and my first big boy lawsuit, meaning lawsuits were filed, attorneys were going back and forth, and big checks were being written back and forth to pay for all this.
Yeah.
I remember getting no sleep.
Right.
Okay, I can't believe I'm going through this, waking up every morning at 3 a.m, analyzing worst case scenario. I thought this guy could take $1 million from me. That's how uneducated I was at the moment. And most people that get into lawsuits, they don't understand.
Right.
The worst case scenario hits their minds. Either they put their head in the sand and they think nothing's going to happen, they ignore it, and then they lose by default. Or they actually defend it and don't understand what's going on and think that their world's going to collapse. Frankly speaking, that was me. Okay? Honestly speaking, that was me.
Yeah.
As I was going through this, I always remember looking at my amazing attorney, and he would always say, let's just go have some fun. Let's just go have some fun. Because here's the thing. In a lawsuit, you are going to punch the shit out of the other guy.
Yeah. And
just know that the other guy's going to punch the shit out of you. So you might as well have as much fun as possible doing it. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So I had a few pieces of good advice around that one. That was the first one, is you're going to get punched. Just make sure you punch back just as hard and have fun. Okay, that was first piece. Second piece is scorch earth. Do you remember me saying that? I used to come down and go, scorch earth.
Yeah.
What does scorch earth mean? It's an old saying, an old war saying. These militaries or these armies or whatever you'd call them, these countries, I think it was that far back, when they would go and conquer, they would leave nothing left.
Nothing untouched.
Nothing was reusable or salvageable. So if there was a village and they conquered the village, they didn't leave the village. They literally scorched the earth in their path of destruction. So that if there was ever a moment where somebody needed another resource, it was gone. So if you're going to go into a lawsuit, I'm going to tell you right now, if you go into a lawsuit with me, my mentality is scorch earth. If you're going to mess with me, I'm going to do everything in my power to scorch earth when it comes to messing with you. Okay? And I know I'm going to get punched. But trust me, I'm going to punch you back just as hard. And I've got experience, so I'm going to have a lot more fun with it.
Yeah.
Okay? So I know it sounds like I was being really specific to myself, and my mentality is if I would have heard me today talking like I am when I was in the middle of my lawsuit, I literally would have found comfort. I would have found peace. I was in distraught mindset for 2 years.
Yeah.
Around that.
No, I remember.
And then it all settled out.
You're like, why was I so
fucked up? My imagination just got the best of me.
Yep.
You know, and that's what the imagination does. It's either good for you or it hurts you. Is you just start imagining all the worst case scenarios. All right. So second one, this one wasn't even real estate related. This was just my old investor. Guy walks in my office, goes, "You built a pool
in your own backyard."
In my own backyard. Like, again, the more I think about this stuff today, I'm like, yeah bro, get out. Yeah, get out of my office.
Yeah.
Okay? I built a pool in my backyard with my own money.
Yes.
Okay? With a vendor that we have never, ever used.
Nope.
Together as a group.
Nope.
What I was sensing is my investor was starting to have resentment at my success, which is why I love the second round of investors that we have, Tom and Phil Boakley. Those guys encourage success. They loved watching me grow. Yeah. They were in love with my success.
Yeah, your first one gave you...
And it fueled me.
Yeah.
Okay? The first guy, on the other hand, I remember we bought a boat. I tell him I'm at the lake this week and did it. And I could just sense there was a lot of resentment.
And he didn't provide any of the value that Tom and Phil did.
No, Tom and Phil taught me how to be a businessman. Yep. This guy wanted me to be a slave.
Yeah.
He wanted me to work and not understand what
he wanted to keep you down here.
He wanted, and there was no reason to. There was enough money, enough everything to go around. Like the people around me today, we're all moving. The rising tide lifts all boats, and that is what is happening at Galindo Group Real Estate all the time. At that office, that was not the case.
No.
He wanted his boat to rise and me to stay at the bottom, which is fine. Anyway, I was sensing that, so I was like, I'm not going to go bragging to this guy about anything special that I'm doing in my personal life
because he's not
it's
happy
adding
for you.
To the resentment. So I built this pool in my backyard, in my personal backyard, my personal money with the personal vendor that I had found on my own. He gets wind that I built this pool. He comes to my office. He goes, "Did you build a pool?" I go, "Yeah, I built a pool." He goes, "Why didn't you tell me?" I said, "I just didn't think it was necessary to tell you." Next day, I walk in the office. He's out. He literally moved out of the office in the middle of the night. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, so I got about $40,000 that are in transition from the escrow company to my brokerage. He puts a hold on those checks. Says that there's a commission dispute at this point. These are done, closed deals. And the commission check is on its way to my brokerage. It's not even cut to him anymore.
No.
Okay? He puts a hold on those $45,000. There's another $45,000 in deals that we had working at that moment. So I have to... I try to negotiate with him. I try to work things out with him. I have to go through all this crap. I had to move out of the office so that we violated the lease and under the terms that it was abandoned. Then I got the landlord's attention. Then I was able to cancel out Chris's lease, which was under his name, and put the lease into my name. Did you know that?
Yeah.
That was why I had to move out? Because I had to trigger the abandonment clause so that he was in violation so that they could cancel him out and then put me in.
No, I remember.
Oh, man, that was a tragic time, or a very stressful time.
That was 6 weeks after Kennedy was born.
Of course, right? Yeah. He wanted to inflict pain because he was so hurt. That's all right. He's a loser. So,
what exactly was his argument? I can't remember the verbiage that he used.
He said that I had superior knowledge around building pools, and with that superior knowledge, it would have benefited our flip businesses because I could have been in a position to inform him that if we put pools into houses, we would make more money.
Which, wouldn't you win from that too?
Yeah, I was based on profit. I was paid based on profit. I got a percentage of the profit. So if I had this superior pool knowledge...
Why wouldn't you have implemented it?
I would be right. And at the time, it didn't make any sense. We were buying houses for $200,000. Pools were $40,000. Right. Today, houses are $1 million and pools are $60,000. $1 million house can absorb a $60,000 pool. Back then, a $200,000 house couldn't absorb a $40,000 pool.
Right.
It just didn't. So there was no superior knowledge. Guy's a fucking idiot. Anyway, so that was his argument. Guy sues me 6 weeks after having my third child. Kinsley or Kennedy?
Kennedy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the other one was the other jackass in my life. was Kinsley. But so Kennedy, for whatever reason, it's always 2 or 3 weeks after I have a kid, where I should be like sitting at home doing nothing, hanging out with my wife and my newborn. Instead, I'm like, putting on a friggin' an armored vest to go to work to defend my family and their livelihood. It's all good. That's how I'm built. So, I battled this guy for 2 years. Okay, he ends up losing.
Well, you dragged it out on purpose. You're like, I'm going to make him bleed for doing this.
Yeah, and I made him bleed. So what I love about being in this shitty thing called a lawsuit is reading all of the responses back and forth and the complaints and all of the back and forth between the attorneys. It enhanced my vocabulary. It enhanced my ability to make deals, because deals are only as good as they're structured. If you forgot about that one scenario, that unique scenario that could take place if this, that, or this, or this, or that, if this happened, if you forgot about that one, then you don't really have a solid deal. Right. Attorneys, their expertise is thinking about that if scenario. And then they build an agreement around it. That's what I believe attorneys are experts at. Contractual attorneys. Anyway, so it was really special and really cool to watch these two guys. Both attorneys go back and forth. So we had to go to arbitration. And what they do is they hire, and during arbitration, they hire either a retired judge or a retired attorney to be the arbitrator. And you sit in a room. The person that is suing you is across the table with his attorney, and I'm with my attorney. And I remember sitting there, and I knew I'd won. I knew I had won right away. Here's the thing: lawsuits are about facts, but if you're gonna have it be decided by an arbitrator, you want to bring the best version of yourself, because don't ever discount the human element. Facts are one thing. Human element is a whole other component. Chris sold himself as a Looney Tune. The second he sat down, he was this.
Jittery,
he was jittery,
moving, and nervous. He wasn't.
He was short anxious. With his attorney. The arbitrator was so shocked by the allegation that he goes, "Hold on, let me understand this. You're suing because he has superior pool knowledge." Yes, and then he goes, "Okay." That was this guy was like, "Okay," and Chris was like, so he's over there just painting his own picture. Right. Anyway, so what was fun about arbitration is it was like watching a boxing match. My attorney would go, round one, boom, knock down the other side. They got back up before the count was up. Round two, my guy knocked him down again. Round three, it was an even split. Round four, boom, boom. Yeah. And then I had to talk. I know. Here was the funny thing, is that this was a 9-hour ordeal. Yeah, I showed up with a full belly, and I was like ready to go, got a good night's sleep. My mind was right. I didn't know that I was going to have to sit in this room and just drink coffee for 9 hours. Yeah, yeah. Then on the 9th hour, they're like, "Oh, we're ready to quiz you." I'm like, I'm so jacked on coffee right now, and my belly's freaking empty. But I remember, and everything in life is about exactly this. I looked at this attorney, and I was, in my mind, swear to you, Krystal, I said, "Let's fucking go." I was ready. I believe you. I was excited because I knew after reading the room for 9 hours, I was like, one, I could articulate. Not only was I right, I knew that, but I could out-articulate this guy. I knew all I have to do is convince this guy. Yeah. That's all this was about. And this guy can't put 5 sentences together without having to reference his notes or whatever it was. And me, I could use my ability to articulate to win this. And I'm going back and forth, boom, 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 boom. Guy didn't have a shot. I'm doing laps around him. Then it gets down to contractual conversation, which you can't manipulate. Yeah. You got to read the clause. I hate that. I read my clause, and right there I read it out loud, and he goes, "How do you interpret that?" I'm like, how else would I interpret this? It was obviously... Yeah. And I read it. And so the funny event is that Jacob, from the witness's standpoint, me, rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 11. And then Josh Galindo rolls in and shoots a hole in the boat in round 12. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that one clause almost buried us. And I'm under the table kicking Jacob, going, bro, you gotta fix this.
Yeah.
Like, get to work. And I just remember Jacob going.
Which Jacob was the attorney.
Jacob's my attorney. And he had his hands up like this. And he fucking went. And he smoked this guy.
Really?
Yeah. He fixed my problem, and then he overturned. He fixed what I did, and then he overturned what the attorney was trying to do, and that was it. And we walked out, and I hadn't smoked a cigarette for, I don't know, 8 years probably.
Yeah.
We went to the bar, and I smoked an entire cigarette.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like, it's over. Here was the great thing, is I didn't care which way it went. I wanted to win. Don't fool yourself. But it was over. All that stress and anxiety was over. And at that moment, whether I won or not, was like, dang, none of this was worth that. Mm-hmm. It was not worth it. Mm-hmm. So, and then the bigger thing was, is you learn these valuable lessons that it's always all about the journey. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Think about this. You were just sitting here, Brittany's sitting here, and Chris is sitting here. You guys are listening to the story. Mm-hmm. The fun part of the story was the journey.
Yeah.
Was me describing my journey.
Right.
The boring part of the story was me ending it.
Right.
It's the same thing with life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
It's all about the journey. And I look back at that because I haven't talked about it for a while. And I look back at that and I say to myself, you know, we did have fun. Mm-hmm. Jacob and I got to have some fun. Mm-hmm. And on that one, we won. And I've lost some other ones.
And you learned a lot.
Oh, I learned so much.
Yeah.
And the bigger picture, back to the beginning of this story, was because of all those lessons that I learned, I now know how to protect my backside as best as I know how at this time. And I'm going to leave it open probably 5 more times in my life. And I'm going to get the shit slapped out of it. And then I'll never do that one again. And it's just how the world works. Mm-hmm. It's just how it works. So, yeah. So those are my lawsuit stories. I have another one that I'm in right now.
So you shouldn't talk about it.
I don't comment on ongoing litigation.
Yes, no.
What's
like,
that proper term they always put in the newspaper? Yeah, so now I won't talk about that one, but maybe we'll talk on it a little bit later. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but stay strong, stay focused.
Yeah, I was gonna say it probably
money.
Seems easier to just like give in to get it over with, but.
Well, that's what ended up happening with some of these lawsuits, and the most recent ones is I can't tell you, and you feel free to stop me if I get out of line here. I can't tell you how many times I caved. Mm-hmm. How many times I wrote the $5,000 check, the $10,000 check, the $8,000 check, the $6,000 check, and just said it's not worth the headache.
Right.
And then I just said, you know what? I'm done. Mm-hmm. These guys, these people that are coming after me knew what they were getting into.
Right.
Okay. I've never sued somebody.
Never.
Ever. You know how much business I've done? Mm-hmm. I've never sued somebody. You know how many people tried to fuck with me? A lot.
Yeah.
And I've never sued them. So at some point in my career, I had to say to myself, I'm done rolling over.
Right.
I'm done. Let's go. Let's get back. Let's put the gloves back on. I know you're going to punch me, but just know I'm going to punch you just as hard.
Yeah, you think I'm just going to give in.
You're right. And so, you know, and you got to weigh that out.
Yeah.
Some scenarios are, you know, you write the check and you move on. And especially if you're wrong, you always write the check and move on. And then some are like, you know, I'm just going to put my foot down on this one. Mm-hmm. A good attorney. You need a good attorney. And a good attorney to me is an attorney that you could text and you could call on their cell phone. Mm-hmm. To me, that's a good attorney.
Yeah, and I think the biggest lesson and value that you're trying to get across to the audience is that they should be reading everything and getting educated themselves so that way they're able to navigate. Like when someone says, no, you can't do that, you don't say, oh, okay, why?
Right. Yeah. If you're going to spend $50,000 on a lawsuit and attorney's fees,
you might as well
get a $50,000 education.
That's what I was going to say. Education. It's like taking a course.
It is. Yeah. And it'll serve you the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. I've been very blessed with everything I've got. Those are fun stories to talk about.
Yeah.
It's a reminder of the triumph of the big win.
I think it's funny that you're like smiling. You're like, yeah. And I'm like,
nah. I just look at my life. I look at my life. I'm like, I don't screw people over. I don't pursue lawsuits. I defend myself. And everybody that's tried to poke at me, they're in a much different space than I am.
Right.
How did I persevere and do better? And they didn't.
Right.
That's another lesson. I just want to send out that information to the viewers. It's like, stay in your lane, stay focused, stay positive. Don't fight over small things. And if someone wants to play that game with you, defend them and get them out. But just stay focused on staying positive and thinking big. These people this guy literally used to say he'd bite off his own nose in spite of his face.
Yeah.
That's the saying, right?
Yeah.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Anyway, the other problem was with that guy, I knew I had to get out of that relationship, is he was like, I accomplish all of my financial goals if I make $250,000 a year.
And you're like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean for me? And your goals are too small, so I'm out of this relationship.
Yeah.
I'm going to go build a pool in my backyard.
Like, my goal was bigger than that for myself.
I know. All right, that was a good one.
Yep, good job, baby.
Thanks, honey. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for listening.
If you enjoyed the show, please rate, subscribe, and share our podcast. You can also connect with us on social media or at galindogrouprealestate.com.
Until next time, thanks again for listening.